The Knights Templar were one of the most powerful, mysterious, and controversial orders in medieval history. Born as a simple militia to protect pilgrims heading to the Holy Land, in a few decades they became an institution feared and respected throughout Europe. Warriors, monks, and bankers, their influence extended far beyond the battlefields, to the courts of kings and the highest levels of the church. But their meteoric rise was followed by a disastrous fall, which still fuels legends and dark theories today. In this video, we tell you the complete story of the Templars, from their first steps on the dusty streets of Jerusalem to the accusations of heresy, the persecution, and the burning of their last Grand Master. Everything you need to know, without leaving anything out. It all began in the year 1119. After the conquest of Jerusalem during the First Crusade, thousands of Christian pilgrims from Europe began to travel to the Holy Land. But those roads were unsafe. Armed gangs, marauders, and bandits attacked, robbed, and killed the travelers without mercy. It was in this context that 9 knights, led by the French nobleman Hugues de Payens and his companion Godfrey of Saint-Omer, decided to create a small order of chivalry. Their purpose was simple and concrete: to defend pilgrims traveling to the holy places of Christianity. They called themselves Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, because their first headquarters was located right on the Temple Mount, among the ruins of the ancient Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. For the first few years, the order lived in poverty and anonymity. But in 1129, thanks to the decisive support of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, the most influential abbot of the time, the Templars obtained official recognition from the Church during the Council of Troyes. From that moment, the order became an unstoppable force. The Templars began to receive donations, lands, and privileges from nobles and kings throughout Europe. Their ranks quickly swelled and their fame spread everywhere. They were God's warriors, ready to fight and, if necessary, die in the name of the Christian faith. The Templars were not just warriors, they were monks. Their life was governed by a rigid and inflexible discipline, inspired by the Benedictine rule, but adapted to the military role they played. The Templar rule, approved in 1129, contained 72 articles that established every aspect of their existence. The knights had to live in chastity, obedience, and poverty. They could not own anything personal. All property belonged to the order. They slept dressed and ready to fight at any time, rose before dawn for prayers, followed a frugal diet, and could not hunt, play, or participate in tournaments. Their hierarchical structure was extremely efficient and organized. At the top was the Grand Master, elected for life and responsible for the entire order. Immediately below was the Senescalco, who took care of internal administration. The Marshal was the military leader, responsible for armament and discipline in the field. They were followed by the Preceptors, who managed the individual Templar houses in Europe and the Holy Land. At the lower level were the simple knights and servant brothers, who did not wear armor but performed practical tasks. The order was divided into provinces distributed throughout Europe and the Levant, and each Templar house enjoyed great administrative autonomy, but always answered to the higher ranks of the order. This organization, combined with their discipline, made the Templars a true state within a state, independent of kings and even the Pope, with a power that no other order of chivalry had ever possessed. Since their foundation, the Templars were the absolute protagonists of the Crusades. They were the front line of the Christian armies, those who led the most risky charges and who defended the fortresses in the most dangerous territories. The Templars actively participated in all the major Crusades. First Crusade, 1096-1099. The Templars did not yet exist, but the need for their creation arose from the conquest of Jerusalem. Second Crusade, 1147-1149. The Templars were among the most important troops, although the crusade ended in failure. Third Crusade, 1189-1192. After the defeat at the Battle of Hattin and the loss of Jerusalem in 1187, the Templars fought alongside Richard the Lionheart, distinguishing themselves by their courage and determination. Fourth Crusade, 1202-1204. They were not directly involved, as this crusade ended with the sacking of Constantinople, an event that scandalized the whole of Christendom. Fifth Crusade, 1217–1221. The Templars took part in the sieges in Egypt, attempting to conquer Damietta. Sixth Crusade, 1228–1229. They were involved in the negotiations that led to the peaceful restitution of Jerusalem to Emperor Frederick II. Seventh and Eighth Crusades, 1248–1270. They participated in the campaigns in Egypt and Tunisia, but without concrete results. One of the most legendary exploits was the Battle of Montgisard in 1177. On that occasion, a Crusader army of only 500 knights, including about 80 Templars, faced and defeated Saladin's troops, which numbered over 20,000 men. The Templars were decisive. Their frontal charge changed the tide of the battle. But their military history was also marked by defeats. The Battle of Hattin in 1187 was a disaster. The entire Crusader army was annihilated, and many Templars were captured and executed. The fall of Acre in 1291 marked the end of the Christian presence in the Holy Land and deprived the Templars of their original mission. Returning to Europe, with no more lands to defend, the Templars became a power without an army, and that is where their real downfall began. As well as warriors, the Templars were skilled administrators and pioneers of an economic system that, in some ways, anticipated modern banking. At their peak, the order owned more than 9,000 properties including castles, farmland, mills, churches and Templar houses spread across Europe and the Levant. Each Templar house generated income through agriculture, herding, wine and oil production, and the collection of taxes and donations. But the real masterpiece was their international financial network. The Templars developed a system of letters of credit. A European pilgrim could deposit money in a Templar house in his homeland and withdraw it in the form of credit in the Holy Land, in practice an ancestor of the modern check. In addition, the order offered loans to kings, nobles, and even the Pope. The King of France, Philip IV, was one of the Templars' main debtors. Their coffers held the wealth of entire nations, making them an independent and almost untouchable economic power. Their economic power made them invincible for a certain period, but it was also one of the main reasons that triggered the envy and fear of the European monarchs. No ruler could tolerate the existence of such a rich and autonomous state within their borders. For many historians, the Templars' heritage was one of the main motives behind the conspiracy that led to their destruction. The Order of the Templars left behind not only ruined castles and historical documents, but an infinite number of legends that still fuel books, films, and conspiracy theories today. At the center of these mysteries is always him, the legendary treasure of the Templars. According to some theories, when the order was dissolved and its assets confiscated, no one ever managed to find the immense wealth they were said to possess. Gold, relics, secret documents. From here arose the legend of a hidden treasure concealed in some European castle, or even secretly transported to Scotland or Portugal by the Templars who survived the persecution. But the most fascinating mystery remains that of the Holy Grail. Some stories suggest that the Templars, during their excavations under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, found the most sacred relic of Christianity, the cup used by Jesus Christ during the Last Supper. Others claim that they discovered ancient texts that question the dogmas of the Church. Some even speak of the Ark of the Covenant, hidden and guarded by the Templars for centuries, or of esoteric secrets passed on to the Freemasons, thus making the Order of the Templars the ancestor of modern Freemasonry. There is no certain historical evidence of these treasures or relics, but the fact that, after the dissolution of the Order, many documents were destroyed or hidden has fueled for centuries the belief that something great, dangerous, or inconvenient was stolen from the eyes of the world. And this part of the legend, even today, is what keeps alive the flame of the Templar mystery. The end of the Templars did not come on the battlefield, but at the hands of politics and envy. The economic and political power of the Templars had reached a level unsustainable for the European sovereigns. In particular, Philip IV, called the Fair, saw the order as an obstacle to his plans. Not only was he heavily indebted to them, but he also feared their independence and influence. On October 13, 1307, in a carefully planned operation, all the Templars present on French soil were arrested simultaneously. The charges were very serious: heresy, idolatry, obscene practices, worship of an idol called Baphomet, blasphemous rites, spitting on the cross. Confessions extracted under torture confirmed these charges, but the truth is that no concrete evidence was ever found. Many confessed to any crime in order to end their suffering: obscene kisses, denial of Christ, worship of unknown idols. These forced confessions were used by Philip IV to pressure the Pope, Clement V, into initiating an ecclesiastical trial. Although the evidence was weak and contradictory, the order was found guilty. The trial of the Templars was a huge political and religious spectacle. In 1312, with the bull Vox in Excelso, Pope Clement V officially decreed the dissolution of the Order of the Temple. The Templars' assets were confiscated and, for the most part, transferred to the Hospitallers of St. John by order of the bull Ad Providam. The tragic epilogue occurred on March 18, 1314. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Templars, and Geoffroy de Charnay, commander of Normandy, were condemned to the stake on the Isle of the Jews in Paris. It is said that before dying, de Molay pronounced a terrible curse against King Philip and Pope Clement, announcing that they would die within the year. Pope Clement V died on April 20, 1314 in Roquemaure, France. King Philip IV died on November 29, 1314, a few months after the death of Pope Clement V and the last Templar Grand Master. A tragic end, but not definitive, because right then, the legend of the Templars really began. With that fire, the Order of the Templars was extinguished, but the legend was born. The end of the Templars did not extinguish their myth. Indeed, it was precisely after their destruction that the most fascinating and mysterious theories began to circulate. For centuries, many wondered what had become of their immense treasure. There was talk of riches hidden in the cellars of castles, of secret documents kept in inaccessible places, of sacred relics such as the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. But one of the most incredible twists came only in 2007, when the Vatican published a document that had remained hidden for 7 centuries, the so-called Chinon parchment. This document, dated 1308, shows that Pope Clement V had absolved the Templars from charges of heresy. In fact, the Church had never formally condemned them as heretics. Their destruction was therefore the result exclusively of political pressure, not of real guilt. From the 18th century onwards, the theory also spread that the survivors of the order had found refuge in Scotland, where they contributed to the birth of modern Freemasonry. According to this hypothesis, the secret rituals of the Templars would have been transmitted to the Masonic lodges, preserving symbols, esoteric knowledge, and ancient secrets. Some scholars point to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland as the place where the Templars hid their treasures or their most compromising documents. The chapel, built in the 15th century, is full of mysterious symbols that still fuel speculation today. Of course, none of these theories have ever been proven. From novels to movies, from video games to documentaries, their legend lives on and seduces millions of people around the world. The allure of the Knights Templar has marked medieval history like no other. In less than 2 centuries, these warrior monks built an unprecedented economic and military empire, fought in all the major crusades, managed a banking system that anticipated modern finance by centuries, and were destroyed in one of the most discussed and controversial trials in history. But their true strength has survived time, the myth. Because the Templars are not just a page in our history, they have become an enigma that continues to fascinate, divide, and intrigue. And now I want to know your opinion. In your opinion, did the Templars really hide secrets so dangerous as to justify their destruction? Do you think that behind their fall there was only a question of money and power? Or that they protected mysteries that someone wanted to erase forever? Write it in the comments below. I want to read your theory.